and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Pitchside Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the BSB. And like, share, and subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates of the episodes of this podcast and other content on this channel. Follow us on social media at SouthPSP on Twitter, PitchsidePod on Instagram, and listen to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you can get it from. It was Boxing Day in the Premier League, of course. There's no anything else to talk about in this episode, really. We're going to be focusing on what happened yesterday in the Premier League. And 6 matches, of course, were taking place. Starting from the King Power Stadium, Leicester City versus Manchester United, a game that was really intriguing. It started frantically. As I mentioned in the review yesterday, it was, between two teams that coming into the game, they had a good form about them. I mean, it felt like Man United had the better form, but Leicester City, with a couple of late wins that they had, really, it sort of balanced things out between the two sides. I think, as I mentioned, the injury for Manuel Bissaka, as far as United are concerned, gave Leicester a target to attack in the game, really. The fact that Lindelof isn't a natural right back hurt United a little bit, because that allowed Leicester to attack from that side a little bit more. United were good. I mean, they started good, really. They started the first 25 to 30 minutes really fine. I mean, after the equaliser, I would say they really dropped a lot. I mean, you cannot ask for United to dominate games with this mentality, don't you? Because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer seems all about mostly counters now. I mean, when he has spells of possession, it tends not to be long, really. I mean, there's exceptions to that rule, obviously, but I think mostly he tends to focus on not having possession or focusing on the counters, trying to find space behind the defenders and what have you. So that was his most mentality for the game against Leicester. They were brilliant, by the way. They were incredible, as usual. But they still have some tweaks, to do in the defensive aspect of the game. I mean, the placement to the centre halves, I like, by the way, Leicester City centre halves, and Fofana in particular. I think he's one of the best at the moment at it, but he's still young, so he still has a lot of things to learn. His placement and his positioning sometimes lacks the mark, and that's why it probably would hurt him in the future to have such mistakes with a big team like Leicester City now in the Premier League. The first half was pretty balanced, pretty tight. United opened the scoring, as I mentioned in the review, beautiful assist from Bruno Fernandes to Marcus Rashford, 1-0 at 23 minutes. Everybody thought, well, fine then. United are going to be sitting back, they're going to be sitting tight, and they're going to be playing on the counter. That didn't happen, really. United continued to play forward just for 5-6 minutes after the goal, but they couldn't keep the momentum going, and Leicester City grew into the game and knew that they had to do something, and the midfield started pressing higher and working up the pitch. There were a couple of defensive mistakes that almost took advantage of, but the finishing was lacking from the Leicester City players. And then, of course, a giveaway in the midfield from Bruno Fernandes gave Maddison the chance to set up Harvey Barnes, who just put a beautiful shot for the equaliser. First half ended in a draw and in a very balanced sort of momentum between the two sides. United had the good spell, and Leicester had a good spell by the end of the first half. By the start of the second half, things changed, really, and tide turned Leicester's way, because they really start pushing forward, I would say, a little bit more than usual. And of course, with the fact is, they brought Jose Perez up the pitch. They changed the formation pretty much, moving into a 4-3-3 of sorts, with a 4-2-3-1 with Ndidi and Tielemans becoming a partnership in the midfield, after it was Ndidi as a lone central midfielder. United brought Paul Pogba, who didn't add a lot in the game today. I mean, usually he would add something in the games, but he didn't add a lot to United's game, really. I tell you who added to United's game. It was Edinson Cavani coming on from the bench and assisting, of course, the goal for Bruno Fernandes. His experience is paying dividends in United. I don't know why he doesn't start games. I mean, maybe it's about fitness, about his, in his age, he cannot really play 15, 90, 40 minutes. But his experience is paying dividends. He's surely got what it takes to lead United through certain games where you need him. So he should be an option more often, I think, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He should be used more often. Martial is having some shockers of performances, so I think Edinson Cavani is a good replacement, a great replacement. I don't know, I'm not going to say an upgrade because Martial is still young relatively, and Edinson Cavani, I think, went through everything you could go through as a player. So overall, United were leading 2-1 away from home. They were not comfortable, but they were looking good. However, an unfortunate own goal by Axel Tuanzebe, who comes in as a replacement for Victor Lindelof. I mean, it was obvious, I think, that Victor Lindelof, was targeted as the right back who shouldn't be right back, really. But as you mentioned, that is where the situation was for Manchester United. Axel Tuanzebe with the own goal from Vardy's shot going into the net, of course, to all that ends at the King Power Stadium. A tight result that, didn't help neither teams really improve the situation, because eventually, they lost both the potential to go second on the table, of course, and they regressed back. Leicester City regressed back to third, and United regressed back to fourth. Next up, Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace. Of course, this was a straightforward game, I think, for Aston Villa, and the fact that they lacked one man for the rest of the game, really. It was incredible. They didn't have more of a possession, though. Something surprises me about this game, that the 3-0 result might suggest that they had more possession or they had more domination in the game, but they didn't. In fact, you talk about Aston Villa having 21 shots with 30% of the possession, pretty much. They really were effective, I would say. They weren't effective because when you have 21 shots and 10 on target and you only score 3, that's not effectiveness. But I would say they were efficient in terms of doing the best they can with their possession, considering also they have again a one-man down for the second half, really, because Tyrone Mings was sent off, I would say rightfully, in the 45th minute, and playing with one man down in the second half, and not just playing one man down, but scoring 3 goals and winning a game like this against a side like Crystal Palace is just incredible. It's just amazing. It would feel good for Dean Smith and Aston Villa, because they're doing really well. They're doing well against a side that is supposed to give you a hard time. It's supposed to give you a hard game in Crystal Palace, but it couldn't. Ollie Watkins, in my opinion, was the hero, the man of the show. Bertrand Traoré opened for inside 5 minutes, opened the scoring, of course, and then Crystal Palace had a couple of chances. Christian Benteke missed an opportunity, Wilfried Zaha missed some opportunities, and of course, as I mentioned, Aston Villa ended the first half one man down after Tyrone Mings got sent off in the second half. Crystal Palace entered with the same mentality. They tried to equalise, they tried to play forward, but it wasn't their day, as Courtney Hause scored the second goal 66 minutes into the game. Afterwards, it was a scramble for Crystal Palace, trying to get something out of the game, trying to do to score, to get anywhere near the goal. They couldn't. And in the end, of course, it was Anwar El Ghazi with assist from Ollie Watkins, who's on fire. The guy has been really, really good. I mean, it's not just about scoring, because scoring might be the most misleading metric you would talk about in football, because Ollie Watkins is more than that on the pitch. He assists, he moves between the lines, he really sets up the play, links up play really well. He's a very winning deal for Aston Villa as far as attackers are concerned. He's really good, and he's put in incredible work into helping Aston Villa being the side that they are at the moment in the table. So that victory, of course, of Aston Villa against Robertson puts them up at 6, and that is with 2 games in hand. So, this could be great. This could be really great this season. It could be amazing as far as Aston Villa are concerned. And a goalless draw between Fulham and Southampton. I don't have anything to say about that, really. Poor Southampton, really, they were at the top of the table. Not at the top literally, but they were around the second place or the first place 3 weeks ago, and now you find them at the 9th position in the table. A draw against Fulham. Fulham having the low-key one of the best forms at the moment in the table. Despite the fact that they are a relegation battlers, I think they are playing some of the best football they could do this season in these last couple of weeks. Having some incredible results like beating Leicester, drawing against Liverpool, drawing against Southampton. Southampton this season have been tremendous so far. So it all boils down to the stamina. It all boils down to the sort of endurance of these kind of sides. If Southampton are going to be persistent this season and going to get something out of this season, surely by now, I think it's established that they will not finish lower than the 10th or 11th position. That is what's established, because I don't think Southampton are going to be regressing that bad anytime soon to lower bottom of the table, to middle of the table, to lower middle of the table. I don't think so. But it's all about persistence and endurance, because now they put themselves in a position where they can go on and have a better finish. So the expectation would be Southampton should have a better finish, and results like this are not going to help their case. They're not going to be really, giving them any kind of momentum when it comes to finishing at top half of the table. Now, of course, we turn our attention to the biggest game of them all on Saturday. It was the London derby between Arsenal and Chelsea, and the expectations heading at this game were. The expectations were that Arsenal are going to be getting a rubbing, Chelsea are going to walk all over them, all of that, and everybody expected, I think rightfully so, expected that, because Arsenal were heading in a worst form of their life to this game. 7 matches they don't win, 5 losses and 2 draws. Those losses, lost against Aston Villa at home 3-0, you lose against Burnley by an own goal from Aubameyang, and you don't score for quite a while, you find a problem scoring, your defence is really bad. Arsenal, I think, rightfully expected a drubbing, and the Arsenal fans rightfully had the right to fear for the worst in this game, knowing that Chelsea have attackers and have attacking options that can be really hurtful. However, not everything that is said on paper, really, and not everything that is said before the game translates on the field. And Chelsea started the game possessing. They had more possession, but they couldn't do something with it. Like the first 15, 18, let's say 20 minutes exactly were basically Arsenal pinned to their defence and playing compact, while Chelsea were trying to play wide, but they play wide and penetrate from wide positions, and they couldn't do that. And their players were not effective, were not penetrative enough. Specifically, Timo Werner, the guy is having some shockers at the moment as well. Talk about Martial United. Well, how about Timo Werner in Chelsea, really? And he said it. He said that he didn't adapt easily to the Premier League. The Premier League is harder than the Bundesliga. I think everybody knows that by now, but when you play in a wide position that doesn't suit you and you try to drift too much inside and you find yourself inefficient, really. Some of the chances he missed you cannot blame for playing out of position. This is not the Griezmann situation, really, but you should be more effective than that. The patience of the Chelsea fans probably would grow thin as the days and the weeks progress on Timo Werner, because nobody's going to be taking the fact that he's not scoring kindly, especially in these kind of fixtures coming thick and fast, and Boxing Day and the double game week, and then New Year's is coming. They play Man City on Sunday, next Sunday, after they play Aston Villa on Monday, which is as hard of two matches back to back as they come when they get to City, because City now are much different than the Manchester City of, say, a couple months ago. So yeah, Chelsea should have been in a better position. And losing, I mean, even the victory against West Ham was hard, but the games before it, against Everton and Wolves, didn't exactly fill the fans with hope. And what happened after the first 25 minutes for Chelsea in this game against Arsenal didn't fill them with hope either. Arsenal gained confidence, started entering into the game a little bit, the midfield started to work, and Nene and Xhaka started to work a little bit well. They're decent. I mean, they found an ineffective midfield for Chelsea, really unusually ineffective. I mean, when we talk about a midfield that has Mount, Conte and Kovacic, and you say that it's ineffective, I think it shows how bad Chelsea were on the night. And of course, they started penetrating. They took advantage, I think, of the biggest weakness of them all. I think the fullbacks for Chelsea yesterday, there were questions about where they're going to be playing or not, and in the end they played. And I thought it was a gamble by Lampard to play both of them on a less than 100% fitness, particularly Reece James, who looked easily dishevelled. I mean, he was outdone by Tierney, and Tierney isn't that, pacey, to be fair, isn't that speedy of a player, but he was outdone by Tierney, he was outdone by Martinelli, who is pacey. Martinelli and Tierney linked up down his side a lot in the game, and one of those link-ups, of course, caused in a penalty for Arsenal in the 31st minute. Of course, contentious, I would say. Slightly soft, but a penalty is a penalty nowadays. You can all debate refereeing a lot. Alexander Lacazette converted from the spot, 1-0 Arsenal, and it was another game afterwards, really. Chelsea couldn't find themselves into the game. Arsenal continued pressing, continued playing some of the best football they played this season, and the bar is low, obviously. Hector Bellerin and Smith Rowe created a golden chance to add a second, but couldn't achieve it. And then, of course, 2 minutes before half-time, Granit Xhaka, what a beautiful free kick that was from the Swiss. He sends a rocket into Edouard Mendy's net. Nothing he could do about that, the Senegalese goalkeeper. 2-0 for Arsenal at half-time at the break. It was an unbelievable result as it stands, but the most unbelievable thing happened in the second half, I would say. Frank Lampard realised we should change, and he made a change. He made two changes. Jorginho, and I think an exit-bound player, really. He's not going to be spending any time longer, I would say, in Chelsea. He's going to be gone by January. And Hudson-Odoi for, predictably, Timo Werner, who, as I mentioned, had a bad game. So, those changes didn't start to take effect immediately. Arsenal continued pressing. Tierney and Martinelli kept playing down the left-hand side of their attack, down Reece James's side. The pressure went a little bit more towards Ben Chilwell on the left-hand side, who couldn't have a proper game. He didn't cross a lot like he usually does. He didn't participate in play like he usually does. And of course, in the 59th minute, it was Bukayo Saka coming in with the goods for Arsenal with the third goal. It was a lucky third goal in the finish, but certainly the build-up wasn't, because it started all the way from Leno, moved brilliantly on the midfield down the right-hand side from Smith Rowe, setting up Saka. Obviously, he wanted to cross, but it went in. It misled Edouard Mendy, hitting the post and into the net. 3-0 Arsenal. The goal was a fluke, admittedly, but the whole 3-0 lead obviously wasn't a fluke, because Arsenal showed for it and they played a great game to show for it, really. Chelsea afterwards couldn't really keep themselves up. They almost conceded the fourth on a couple of occasions. Edouard Mendy with a horrendous mistake, almost giving up a fourth goal. A couple of saves from him as well against Martinelli. Crossbar from Nene, a save against Holding. I mean, Arsenal had glorious chances to score a fourth goal, but they couldn't make it. And Chelsea, in the 15 minutes that left, of course, they started to grow into the game a little bit after Kai Havertz entered. I think it was one of his better performances. The bar is low also for Kai Havertz. Was one of the best performances he put, I think, in the last 15 minutes or so. He linked up the play decently enough for his compatriots, of course. Tammy Abraham scored in the 85th minute but via Callum Hudson-Odoi assist. The first time really that Chelsea put a cross into the box, and it worked really, and it was effective. The goal was almost taken off by VAR, but only for the lines to be drawn and the offside to be chalked off. In the 90th minute, Chelsea missed a big opportunity from a penalty spot. Jorginho missing a penalty, with Bird Leno with the save, of course. With 5 minutes left at stoppage time, that could have changed the game completely. That could have given Arsenal fans a lot of nerves heading into the stoppage time, but it didn't. 3 points for Arsenal, important 3 points coming at the right time when Arteta was about probably to lose his job really if he lost the game against Chelsea. They have 2 important games that they could slip really in, so we should wait and see against both West Brom and Brighton before that. The youngsters were really the solution. I said in the review, I'm going to say it again, the youngsters were the solution for Arsenal, given the likes of Smith Rowe, Saka and Martinelli the opportunity. I mean, Saka is now a first teamer, I would say, over anyone else. Saka is a first teamer over Willian and maybe even over Aubameyang. I really don't see how could you drop Saka anywhere soon now from this side, or you drop Martinelli for that matter. Pepe didn't give you exactly what you want. Willian is not doing it, and Aubameyang is having the worst season of his career. That's it. Youth is going to be the solution for Arteta if he's going to do anything of significance this season in the Premier League game. They still have 2 hard games to come through, and they need wins when they matter, really. Next, of course, this result, by the way, is going to be moving Arsenal, up to 14th, which is, an improvement, let's say it. But Chelsea, poor Chelsea, they move down to 7th, this result, of course, as Manchester City take advantage of their game against Newcastle. And again, a minimalistic win, an economical win for Manchester City, 2-0. The goals coming in from Raheem Sterling in the first half in the 14th minute, assisting Ilkay Gundogan for the first goal. Ferran Torres, second goal, 55th minute. And that's the lot for the game. And they had their usual 75% possession. You don't expect Newcastle really to come in against Man City and possess the ball. They had the usual possession, they had the shots, but it looked like Man City were trying to be economically efficient. 2-0 victory. As I mentioned a lot earlier, Guardiola started to focus more on defending, and I think he's rightfully so, because his side has been bad for quite a while. Playing with 3 at the back with Diaz, Stones and Ake. It was weird, but it was fine. It gave City what they wanted from the game. A victory against the Newcastle side that, again, you don't expect a lot from them this season, and certainly don't expect them to beat City at the Etihad Stadium. And to finish, of course, the day, Sheffield United expectedly lost again. It was a harder game for Everton. Of course, we defeated them. It was a harder game than you would expect. It was, I think, tighter. It was closer. Sheffield had a lot of chances. They had 2 shots on target, while Everton had 3, which shows you how tight and how close the game was. But eventually, of course, the one difference was the goal in the 80th minute by Gelfi Sigurdsson, of course, courtesy of an assist of Abdoulaye Doucouré. A victory that keeps Everton momentums going. This is 3 in the last 3 now for Everton. It's 4 actually in the last 4. With the last result where they didn't win actually, was against Burnley. The draw 1-1 from there, of course. It was 4 wins back to back for Everton. They are hitting the best form of their life. 12 points. Send them up to 2nd over both Leicester and Man United, as I mentioned earlier, to stay in the chase of Liverpool, of course, who face West Brom today. So that's it for the Saturday fixtures of the Premier League. Of course, the Sunday fixtures of the Boxing Day weekend continue with Leeds United hosting Burnley, West Ham United hosting Brighton Hove Albion, Liverpool playing West Brom, and Wolves facing Tottenham. Two big games back to back coming on. Of course, there will be the coverage on this channel. Of course, I'm going to be doing videos for both games. I'm going to be writing articles, of course, for them. And that's it for this episode. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel, of course. Enable notifications to receive the updates of these episodes and other content on this channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, PitchSide on Instagram, Spotify, Google Podcast, or wherever you can get this podcast. You can listen there. You can catch it later at the www.webreadsports.com. I wrote articles there as well. You can check them out. And that's it for this episode. I was your boy, the HID of the PSP, and until I see you soon enough after the Liverpool-West Brom game, I would say goodbye.